Okay, today we're talking about From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. This is the first book of hers I have read. It's super famous, everyone loves it. The second book is already out. It's also the romance winner for the Goodreads Choice Awards in 2020. I don't usually read a lot of romance, but this book was so close to becoming great for me. I am super conflicted about this book. We're going to talk about all of those in this review in a numbered list. But first, if you're new here, I talk about books from a more craft-focused critical point of view, and there's a bunch of other type of bookish content too, and some very exciting new content is coming soon. So don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss those, especially if you're in the 85% of viewers who aren't subscribed. Imagine the greatness we could have achieved if all of those people were subscribed. Yeah, probably nothing would change, but anyway. Without further ado, let's start with talking about number one, the plot. So the story takes place in a medieval-inspired kingdom where the main character, Penelope, or Poppy for short, is what they call the chosen maiden to be given to the gods, which is called an ascension. Everything is super vague. Nobody explains what actually happens during the ascension. None of the others who were given to the gods ever returned, but it's supposed to be this highly honorable thing. Everyone tries to protect the maiden. She wears a mask at all times, so only a select few are allowed to see her face. So the story is just very vague and general. It's just Penelope struggling with the fact that she has to go through with this mysterious thing and how everyone around treats her. The problem I had with that was it was really difficult to track progression, which made me stop reading constantly because I just couldn't see a goal in the story. There is the romance plot, of course, but it's not super complicated. You immediately see who the love interest is, and it's pretty static. Having said these, I will say the craft of writing in this book is quite excellent. Things just keep evolving. Just when I think we hit a plateau, suddenly something happens and it just pushes everything forward. And the things that happen are never random. You realize that they were being set up for a long time. And I don't think there are a lot of dull moments in this book. The evolution of story in this book reminds me of anime, because in anime, usually there are several milestones where you realize what you thought was true was not what it seemed to be. And this book follows a similar structure. It keeps expanding and keeps changing things up. The amount of lore presented in this single volume is quite amazing. My main problem with this book was the last 30%, and I'll talk about that later, but let's talk about the characters a bit. So I found the character of Penelope quite fun to follow. I think she has a lot of personality. She has her own goals, her own dreams. She questions things. Her reactions have nuance. She's not helpless. She's not boring. You keep finding new things about her. You find out that she's caring and brave and independent and smart and all of that in a very organic way. As I said, the craft of writing in this book is quite good. I think the writer handles exposition really well, and overall I enjoyed this character. However, I cannot really say the same thing about the rest of the characters. This is a single viewpoint story, but all the other characters are considerably weaker. There's the maid slash friend who is basically just that role. There's the protector slash guard slash father figure who is basically just that. Nobody really has any personality beyond their relationship to Poppy. The other major character is the love interest, and this type of male character is basically why I don't like romance books. I think romance books often have terribly written male characters. This sort of dark, brooding, very capable, and always concerned about the main girl type of guy. You know, he's always like, oh, you're going to hurt yourself, you should be more careful, whatever the girl does. And the girl can be completely incapable, like Bella in Twilight, or here Poppy, who is quite capable of taking care of herself. And that's the whole personality of the male character. He doesn't even interact with anyone else in a human way. I find it extremely boring. I think this is the worst type of person to fall in love with. I understand that he is good looking and there's sexual chemistry, and those are important, sure, but like his personality is just based around that, nothing more. Super capable, protective, hot guy. Like, can this guy maybe cook or something? Or maybe there's a book he likes? Even the worst type of person on dating apps like traveling and fishing. Just give the guy something, I don't know. Have someone do a painting of him holding a fish. What I'm saying is we should be able to find better guys to fall in love with in romance books. If you feel the same way and have any examples of better male characters in romance books, please write your recommendations. I'd love to read them because I do think this book actually handles the romance and sex part pretty well. So let's move on to the next point, number 3, the sex. Oh, by the way, it says young adult, new adult on Goodreads. Yeah, let's say new adult. It's not like super explicit, but like I would say this is adult romance. I don't think this is appropriate for a 13-year-old. There are sex scenes and other things that might count sexual exploitation maybe. It's hard to say and I don't want to spoil, but I'm just gonna say it's adult romance. Now that I think of it, I think they swear quite a bit too. They drop several F-bombs. So I don't know how this book got classified as YA. Maybe it's a mistake on Goodreads tags, but yeah, just so you know. What I like about how this book handles sex is it's not just for the smut. There's actual character development through this character exploring sexual relationships. It's sort of a way for her to discover herself, what she wants from life, what her needs are, and what she needs to prioritize over what everyone else expects her to do. And with every sexual encounter, she gets a little bit closer to discovering that. I don't see that done well often. Again, I have never read this author's books before, but it's extremely well handled. Anyway, after a lot of positive things I said, you might say, well, what's the catch then? Why are you conflicted? And the reason, as I mentioned, is the last 30%. So the last point is a number 4, the ending. If I had given this book a rating at 65%, I could have given it 5 stars, especially around that mark. Something incredibly remarkable happens, and I was like, wow. Oh, shit's getting real now. Where do we go from here? And before that, as I said, the book keeps expanding its world. It keeps changing things up. It's never stale. So I had high hopes at that point. But what happens is the most predictable thing. Probably the thing you guessed at the very beginning of the book. It turns into the most obvious, tropey paranormal romance. It was so bad. I couldn't believe it because this book showed so much promise. I was absolutely shocked that it took such a terrible turn at the last part, and the ending was even worse. I was super excited to read the second book, but after this ending, I don't think there's any point in continuing this. I found it completely unoriginal and boring. It's such a shame because this could have been great. This could have been it. I know that a lot of people love this book, and for the fans of the genre, that kind of predictable, tropey ending might be like a must. I suppose people love that kind of thing so much that there are so many books that do the exact same thing. I was hoping this book would not go there, but at some point we need to accept genre tropes. So that's completely on me, but I am disappointed. I was really expecting a lot from this book. But if you also hated the ending and still read the second book, and loved it, let me know in the comments because I like the writing style. I want to read more books from this author. I think she's really good. The emotional stakes and the scenes are handled really well, and that is something I care about a lot. There are many scenes in this book where the emotional arcs pay off, and it's so satisfying. Oh, wait. There's number 5. I always forget to talk about the audiobook, even though I mostly listen to audiobooks. So number 5, the audiobook. It's just a fantastic performance. I love the narrator. She was so good. Most definitely worth picking this up as an audiobook. I feel so lucky to have such amazing performers narrating audiobooks. I could never have read this myself and got a similar experience. It's really good. I apologize because I'm too lazy to look up the name of the performer. You know what? I'm gonna look it up. Stina Nilsson. Great performance. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about this book in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like to let me know. And if you'd like to see more book reviews, and there are some new types of content coming very soon, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goose breeze. Goose breeze. Scent. Lilac. Lilac. Goose. 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 Goose breeze. Lilac. Goose. 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 Goose breeze. Lilac. Scent. Goose.